Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Okay, so today I'm going to show you guys how to make one of my favorite recipes. And I know that I say that all the time when I tell you what it, that I'm making something new, but I really love this recipe and it is awesome because it's pretty versatile. It goes with rice, you can use it to make tacos, and you can pretty much eat it with anything. But what it's called, I'm going to tell you the name in Spanish, and then I'm going to translate it for you in English. It's called Carne Sucia. And when you translate that in English, it's called dirty meat. Okay? I don't know where the name came from, but I just know that that's what it's called. And it's a process, and I'm going to take you along. This is the very first one. So what I did is I got a roast. This is a beef roast, okay? And I put it in a pan, in a pot, and as you can see, I got some sofrito in there, okay? There's some sofrito in there. If you're new to the channel and you've never seen sofrito or don't know what it is, I'll go ahead and leave a link or a card on this video so that you can see it. And it's pretty much a seasoning base that you make ahead of time so that it can be ready for you to cook, right? And as you can hear, it's already going. So what I did with this roast is, if you can see the bottom there, I should have left it out before I put it in there. But you can see it's got a little bit of a skirt of fat in the bottom. You put the bottom on the bottom of the pan, okay? So you make sure that the fat is on the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to put this on low heat, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to take roughly a cup of water and we're just going to put it in there. So your sofrito is already in there, your roast is in there, and you put about a cup of water in there. And what we're going to do now is this is going to take a while to make. And normally what I would do is I would cook it really low, and I will. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cook it on really low temperature for about 2.5 to 3 hours. Then once it's been sitting in there for about 2.5 to 3 hours at low temperature, I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off and let it cool down, and I'm going to put it in my fridge overnight, okay? I think that when you leave it in your fridge overnight, it ends up being a lot tastier and the flavors kind of blend in together, and it's much better than trying to cook it and eat it the same day. Now you can make this dish, cook it and eat it the same day, all right? But I just think that the texture of the meat and the flavors blend together a lot better when you let this meat cook and then store it in the fridge overnight. Okay, so this is the first step. I'll show you guys what it looks like after it's been cooking for probably about the next 2.5 to 3 hours, right before I put it in the refrigerator, all right, to go overnight. And then tomorrow I will finish it off and show you guys what it looks like and show you guys the finishing steps, because there's a couple of steps to this, all right? But let me tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, the end result is just so good. It's delicious, all right? So I'm going to show you guys. So one of the important things is that if you're not using sofrito, you can use the same ingredients that I used to make the sofrito fresh, okay? And you should have just as good results, okay? So I know that some of you that are watching this may not have watched the video where I made the sofrito. I'm going to go ahead and leave a card on the upper right hand corner, like I told you. That way, if you want to learn how to make it, you can go ahead and learn how to make it before you can make this dish. And I encourage you to go watch that video, because making sofrito, it's not just a Hispanic thing. You can make it your own, okay? So go watch that video. It'll at least give you an idea on how you can save a lot of time so that you can be able to make a good home-cooked meal really quickly during the week, during the work week, all right, when you don't have that much time, all right? So we'll leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back in about 3 hours or so that I can show you what it looks like after it's cooked, all right? And then we'll take it from there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Now, this is what the piece of roast looks like after I put it on a low heat for, it's been about 3 hours and 15 minutes. All right, so I'm actually getting ready to go to bed. So I'm not sure how good you can see that right there, but it's fully cooked. I'm sure of it. It's been cooking for 3 hours. And there's a little bit of the juice left, okay? And one good test for this is to take like a spoon. See, I can go right through it. So this is fully cooked and it's pretty tender. Okay? So this tells you that it's pretty tender. If you can put a spoon, especially one of these spoons, through it. Okay, usually whenever I do this, I used to do this with just one of my big metal spoons, but I just happen to have this spoon now. So, and look, I can even do a cross cut. So I'm cutting across the fiber. All right. So this is nice and done. It's very tender. Okay. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna let it sit here. I'm gonna let it rest until it comes to around room temperature, and then we're gonna put it in the fridge. All right, overnight. All right. So I'll probably get to this. Instead of overnight, it'll be after I get home from work tomorrow. So this is going to be in the refrigerator for almost 24 hours, which is fine. You can keep it in there for 24 hours and it's just fine. I think actually it's a little bit better. But if you just do it overnight, it's fine as well. But the point is that it's got to come to complete temperature of the refrigerator, right? So as long as the entire meat and everything in there gets to the same temperature that's inside the fridge, let's say it's probably about, what, 38 degrees in there or so. You can take it out after that and do the next step. In my case, I'm going to wait a full day before I show you guys the next step. All right, so I will be back then. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Now, this has been sitting in the fridge for about 24, a little less than 24 hours, 22, 23 hours. All right, so this is what we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go ahead and position my high-tech camera over here. All right. Okay, so now on a cutting board, you're going to go ahead and take your meat out of here, okay? And there's still a little bit of juice in there. You want to keep that in there, okay? I'm just going to put that back. Now, what I'm going to do with this meat is I'm going to cut it into just sections like this. Very nice. And you see this nice little layer of fat that it's got? You want to keep that, okay? Now, you all remember that I said that this is called dirty meat. Right, I'm going to show you why right now here in a second. Let me go ahead and put this up, and I'll be back in a second, okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back here. That was only a quick minute. I just wanted to show you the reason I took off is I have this really nice set of knives that my wife got me, and they're pretty expensive. And I'm pretty much the only one that uses them. So every time I use them, if I know I'm not going to use them again, I stop what I'm doing, I wash it, and I dry it, and then I put it away. So, but I'm not sure if any of you guys have ever seen these. These are pretty pricey knives. For me, they're pricey. Hey, look, you can see my face. For me, they're pricey. These are those Cutco knives. And they're made here in the USA. And they come with a lifetime warranty even for sharpening. If you ever have to sharpen these knives, you can bring them back and they'll sharpen them for free. And there's actually a place nearby here where I can bring these back. But these things are like literally razor sharp. And very nice knife. I've been wanting some for a really long time. And my very nice wife, she got me a set as a surprise. And I was really surprised when I saw these. I was like, are you serious? So, very nice. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So now this is why I honestly don't know where the name Dirty Meat originated from, okay? But this is where I think that the name might have come from. Is the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take all your meat and you're going to start by hand ripping it. You see how nice and easy it rips? You want to rip it with the grain of the muscle. See? So you see how this is? It's almost like ripping apart a string cheese, you know? And it doesn't matter. You can make them into small sizes or large or whatever you want. You can leave them in bigger chunks if you want. You will definitely be tempted to eat some of this while you're ripping it because it smells really, really good. Okay, so like here you go, you can cut it in half. So what I'll do, ladies and gentlemen, is I am going to go ahead and do this with the entire roast. All right, and I'll be back here in a few minutes when I'm done ripping these all up or shredding them all up. All right, because this is going to take a few minutes, and I'm sure that you guys can see what it is that we need to do with this now. Strip it up. Now, you may think this is taking a little long, you know, to do this, but you know what, ladies and gentlemen, this is really, really worth it. This is a great dish. And normally this dish is eaten with rice. I'm going to save half of this to do something that I've never tried before. And I am going to bring you along on that journey on this video, all right? So I'll be back in a few minutes as soon as I get done shredding these up, and we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. So this is what it looks like after you shred up all that meat that you saw me have there, minus a couple of pieces that had to be taste tested for quality control. And the quality is very good, ladies and gentlemen. Very tasty. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like after it all gets shredded. Like I say, you can shred it finer than that if you want, but that's fine. Just whatever pieces you come up with, that's good. It doesn't have to be uniform. And now what we're going to do is we're going to come back in a second. I'm going to put this in the pot that I just showed you that had a little bit of the juice left. Okay, we're going to heat it up really good, and I'll show you what the next step is. Okay, so stand by. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I've got the juices in there almost at a boil. We're going to take and just put the meat in there. Okay. So when we put that meat in there, it's going to soak up pretty much all of those juices. Now, we are going to add a little bit of spice to this. But if you remember, when we cooked that meat originally, we used some sofrito, right? Which is like the spice that we make up so that we can use ahead of time so it can save us some time. So you are going to need to add the additional spices to it as you see fit. Okay, as your palate tells you. There we go. So now that that's in there, we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of spice to it. We're going to add some adobo. All right. So when I tasted the meat, I could tell it needs just a little more adobo. Not too much, at least in my case, right? And then I'm going to add some onion flakes. All right, dehydrated onions. Whoa, what was that? Look at that, a little piece of the plastic from the cap fell off. I'm glad I noticed that. So a little bit of onions. I'm going to add some cilantro, okay? Oh, you know what? I need a small knife for this. There we go. Let me cut some up real quick, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't have my scissors handy. Should have had my scissors handy, but I didn't. This is quicker. Alright. Some cilantro in there. I'm going to put in a few olives. And there's not that many left in that jar, so we're going to throw those in there. Time for a new container of olives. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to stir this around. Okay? Now, I'm going to use half of this for something other than rice. But normally, if you were going to go ahead and make this for just an over rice dish, I would probably add about another quarter cup to a half a cup of water, and then I would add about a half a cup or so of tomato powder. All right, or you can add one of those real small cans of tomato paste. All right, so if I was going to cook this over the rice, that's what I would be doing. But I'm going to use half of this for something else that I've never tried before, and I think it's going to be very interesting. So I'm going to keep you guys guessing on what that will be. All right, I'll give you a hint. Something that AP really, really likes to do and make. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do here is you're supposed to go ahead and continue working this, okay, on medium to high heat until it pretty much dries out. Okay, so let me see. I want to bring the heat up a little bit. So you pretty much want this to be not dry like jerky, right? But until there's like no juice sticking to the bottom, right? And depending on how high you have the stove, depending on how high you have your fire, will depend on how vigorously you have to stir this meat so that it won't burn to the bottom, right? See, I'm getting pretty close right here. I want to show you guys what it's like. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep doing this on camera, and I'm going to try to see if I can fast forward this section. That way you guys don't have to suffer through live. But I'll have to see if I can figure that out, or get Little Miss Alaska Prepper to help me figure out how to fast forward it, or speed it up. Not fast forward it, but speed it up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's good enough right there. You see that? There's no juice on the bottom. Okay, so now we're going to turn off the heat, and we're going to let this rest. And while this is resting, we will be back to make the next, take the next step, okay? So we'll be back in a second your time. All right, ladies, we are back again. So I'm making my simple bread recipe, okay? Like that artesian bread I made the other day. All right, so we've got 3.5 cups of flour in here. It's the, I finally got all of my regular flour used up, and this is the organic. And I can already tell a difference. I'm sure you guys probably can because of the camera. But this one has more of a richer color than the all-purpose, this one that's organic. But anyways, I just thought I'd tell you guys that. So we've got 3.5 cups of flour. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, and we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of yeast. All right, active dry yeast. We got 1, and that's about 1/2. Okay. If it's a little more, it won't hurt. And now, ladies and gentlemen, if you remember, this is a very simple recipe. Okay, so what we're gonna do is stir this around. Okay, now that we stirred it around, I got my water here. I've got about 1 3/4 cups of water. If you need a little more, no big deal. You can put in your cold water in here, because this water right now is at about 120 degrees. All right, I'm guessing that once we put it incorporate it with the dry ingredients, it'll probably drop between 5 and 10 degrees. All right, so if you have to add a little more water after this, it won't hurt anything if you use water that's at room temperature. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching me make bread here for the first time, make a note to yourself at how easy this is. This is very easy to do. Anybody can do this. We're pretty much done. If we were just making bread, we're pretty much already done. All right. All we have to do now is just let this thing rest. And I'm going to let it rest overnight. Okay. But look at that. It's pretty much done. All right. I don't think it needs any more water at all. And it's kind of good that it's a little bit dry, because what we're going to do next is Ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do next is I'm going to take about a full cup and a half of that dirty meat. I'm going to mix it into this mix. All right. I thought about that. I was like, I've never seen anyone do that before. I'm going to try it. See how it comes out. Because I already know that the bread comes out pretty good. I just think that it would be so awesome if we can incorporate some of that dirty meat in there and make that bread with that meat in there. But you know what? Stay tuned. Let's go ahead and complete this journey because that's what's going to happen next. I'm going to go grab about a cup and a half or so of that meat. Next time that I come back on, you'll just see some meat on top, and I'm going to go ahead and cover it up after that, all right? But I'm going to bring you back so you can see how much meat I'm using. I'm going to try to use about half as much meat as we have dough in there. So I'm going to try to use about a cup and a half. We have 3.5 cups of flour in there. I'll probably use about a cup and a half of meat, maybe a little more. Okay, so we'll be back in a second. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is what it looks like. All right, that's how much meat I got in there, and it's quite a bit. And I really want to see how this turns out. I have a feeling it's going to turn out pretty good. If there's any bakers out there, tell me tell me how this is going to come out. Although we'll all know here in a minute because I'm taking you along for this ride if you want to go on it because it's going to be pretty interesting. I got olives in there. Man, you guys ought to smell this. This smells great. Okay. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Get the dough off of there. And you know what? I'm really curious to see what the temperature of that is. Let's take a look and see what the temperature of this is. Let's just see. I'm curious to see what it is because that meat that I put in there was a little bit warm, but not really. Not hot, not like steaming hot. Try to get as much of this. There you go. Okay. Wow, it's perfect, ladies and gentlemen. It's just over 100 degrees. Yep, just over 100 degrees, which is fine. So what I'm going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to cover this. I'm going to cover this. I'm going to leave it right here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put it on top of this pot. That's still a little bit warm. All right. I'm going to put my towel over this. All right. You have two options. You can either let this sit for 3 hours and then we'll go to the next step, or you can like, for example, it's already a little late at night here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit for about another hour and a half out here. And then I'm going to put it in the fridge overnight. All right. Now, you can definitely let it sit for 3 hours and then go on to the next step, which is what you're going to see, when I come back. Or you can let it stay overnight, right? So what are some of the benefits to letting it sit in the fridge overnight and letting it do what's called a slow rise, all right? Which is when you put it in the cooler and it rises still, but very slow compared to if you leave it outside. When you allow it to do a slow rise, it will end up making the taste a little better, right? It'll end up tasting a little better as far as the bread goes, okay? Because you're allowing that gluten to develop slowly, right? You're allowing the proteins in that bread to develop slowly. Okay, at least that's how I understand it. And I have noticed that when you let your dough slow rise in the fridge, it has more of that bready taste and not that translucent taste. Okay, if you can understand what I'm saying. If you can understand what I mean. I know you understand what I'm saying. So I do prefer letting it sit in the refrigerator overnight. All right, so that's what I'm going to do in this case. Is I'm going to let it sit out here for about an hour or so. And then right before I go to bed, I'll put it in the fridge. And then we'll finish it off in the morning. All right, so we'll talk to you guys probably in about 12 hours. We are back, YouTubers. So I ended up not putting this dough in the fridge I just left it out for about the last 4 hours, so it's really late at night right now. I actually fell asleep on my couch, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cook this now before I go to bed. So let's show you how it rose. It actually looks pretty good. I took a peek. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. So it rose really well. It looks really good, actually. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna turn this over. I went ahead and dusted off my my working area here. All right. One thing I forgot to do is I forgot to get a scraper. So here we go. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the oven, what do you call it? I have the oven preheating to 400 degrees. Okay, so normally to make this bread, we make it at about 425, 430. But I figured that since this is going to be a little more dense because of all the meat in it, that we cook it a little bit slower for a little bit longer. So we'll see how that works out. All right, so all I'm going to do now is just shape it really quick, which should be really easy. I'm going to put a little flour on top here. Okay. Oh, it feels really good too. It's got good consistency. You know, it doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart or anything. And it's still really nice and moist. Let's see. I don't want to knead the heck out of it. I just want to knead it enough to... There we go. Okay, look at that. That looks pretty good. So let me get a piece of parchment paper real quick. And all we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm just going to take this and lift it and put it on top of the parchment paper. And you'll see here in a second. So you'll see that. So we're going to leave it like this. Let me go ahead and get a little bit of flour. There we go. We are going to cover this up. And we're going to leave it in there to rest for about 20-30 minutes. And in the next 20-30 minutes, the oven should be preheated. And we should be ready to put it in the oven. I've already got my cast iron Dutch oven in there, preheating as well. Okay, and you guys may be thinking, man, it takes 20-30 minutes for your oven to preheat. Well, it's you want to let this rest for at least 20 to 30 minutes, okay? And it does take a little bit of time for my oven to preheat in here because, like I said, the ambient temperature in the house is probably around the low 60s in my house. Okay, so it does take about 15-20 minutes for the oven to preheat. All right, so we'll bring you back, ladies and gentlemen, when I'm ready to put this in the Dutch oven and then throw it in the oven. And then after that, it's just one more step. All right, and just taking it out and showing you guys what it looks like and then cutting it up. All right, so we'll be back in a little bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready. Our oven is preheated. And I just uncovered this and it looks really nice. It looks really well rested. It looks like it's going to do good. I was kind of afraid, like I said, I've never done this before. And I was kind of afraid that putting all that extra meat in there along with the dough wouldn't allow the dough to rise or to proof as well as it has. But it's done pretty good. It looks really good. So let me get my Dutch oven out of the oven. we go. Get this off of here. Alrighty. So now, ladies and gentlemen, all we have to do is, and remember that this is hot. I just touched it with the side of my hand. All we have to do is take the wax paper and just lift it up and place it in here. Okay. Then we're going to put our lid up right back on it nice and quickly. Okay, and we're going to put that back in the oven. All right, now ladies and gentlemen, like I said, normally for that bread recipe, usually we put it in the oven at about 425, 430, something like that. And we leave it in there for 25 to 30 minutes, and then we come back and uncover the lid. However, since I've got all that meat in there, what I thought I'd do this time is cook it a little slower for a little longer. So I've got the oven at 400. I'm going to do the initial bake time for 35 minutes. So let me set my kitchen timer. I'm going to do the initial bake time for 35 minutes, and then I'm going to come back, take off the lid, see how it looks, and then put it back in there so that the top can brown. All right, so we'll bring you back when I take it out for the first time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been about 35 minutes. We're going to open this up and see what it looks like. Oh man, it smells great. I'm going to try not to burn myself again. Put that there, close up the oven. Ooh, look at that. Oh goodness. That looks so good. Oh my goodness. That's beautiful. We're going to go ahead and put this in the oven. I'm going to put it in there for another 15 minutes so it can brown up. And I'll bring you guys back to show you what it looks like after I've taken it out and let it rest for a little bit so we can cut into this, because that looks amazing. Okay, we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and look at this. I'll give you a close-up. I think this looks really nice. And I'm going to cut it open. Now, this has been, I put it on a cooling rack, and it's probably been resting for about a good half hour, 45 minutes. Okay, I wanted to make sure it was nice and cool before I cut into it. Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, let me go. I'm going to dedicate this portion of the video to Glenn. I forgot his last name, but it won't be, I know we have a few different Glenns in our community, all right? So if you see a Glenn comment in our community, this is not the person it's dedicated to. Because that person's been blocked, and I'm going to tell you why. So it seems like Glenn didn't appreciate my last payday prep. And thank goodness that I have some blocks associated with the comment, where if you comment with certain words, your comment gets put on a folder for me to review before before it's released for everyone else to see, because this person really did not like my payday prep. I guess that's that one dislike that I've got on my payday prep videos. Man, I'll tell you what, this guy went off. Seems like a very angry person. So I want to dedicate this portion of the video to you, Glenn, because just like all those tortillas I got that have a whole bunch of carbohydrates in them, this has a whole bunch of carbohydrates in it as well. And guess what? I am going to enjoy this immensely, and I truly hope that you find some inner peace in yourself. Because, man, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what, I've gotten some pretty good comments before that I've had to block, but this one I think was a winner. All right. Oh, and also he said that prepping gasoline is a waste of time, that you should have a solar generator instead. Well, I guess he hasn't seen the video where I showed you guys the solar generator I got. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I'm probably going off. You know, sometimes I've said in the past that you can have 1,000 awesome comments and then one really bad comment like that with a person that comments that's probably pretty miserable in their life and has to find something else to, you know, bring someone else down. That one comment can tend to bring you down, right? Or bring me down. But I'm past that. But I just thought I'd share that. I really hope that he sees this part and sees me cutting into this bread, because I'll tell you what, I have a feeling this is going to be delicious. So let's cut into it. Let me show you guys what it looks like. And as you can see, the crust is really nice. And I really like how that olive came out on top. Let's see. Wowee. And look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that pretty? I haven't tasted it yet, but I am going to give it a taste test and let you guys know how it tastes. Look at the inside of this. I mean, it came out really good. It didn't deflate or anything like that. It's nice and spongy on the inside. As you can see, it's spongy. When I press down, it comes right back up. But it can look pretty, but does it taste pretty? Let's see. And look at that, ladies and gentlemen. This is a meal right here. You know, this right here is a meal. It's got your meat. It's got your carbs, Glenn. This has your carbs in there. All right, let's give it a try. And look, a little olive right there. I think this is going to be a winner, but let's see. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that this process seemed a little time consuming, but man, if you guys ought to try this. This is really, really good. Like I said, I've never made this before, and I've never really seen someone make this like this, but this is definitely a winner. I can see cutting a few slices of this bread, I'll call it a loaf, I guess, and making a grilled cheese with it. It's delicious. It really is. I really hope that one of you guys try it. You know, go through this video, take your notes, make the meat the way that I showed you how to make it. First, you're going to have to make that sofrito so that you can do your initial cooking of the meat. But it's great. And the little pieces of meat that are inside of it that I ate is still nice and tender and soft and moist. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is great. I really hope you guys give this a try. And if you do, please let me know how it comes out. And to you, Glenn, I hope that you have a really good day, and I hope that you feel better today than you did this morning when you left that very pleasant comment. A little comedic relief at the very least, so thank you for that. And to the rest of you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not at a point in your life where you're not comfortable with yourself, then you do need to take a look in the mirror. All right? I am comfortable with who I am. I guess Glenn is not comfortable that I'm a fat body. Then again, Glenn hasn't walked in my shoes. So I just hope that you can find some peace within yourselves. And if you're not comfortable with who you are, then make the changes that you need to make in life to become comfortable and be happy with who you are. All right? But if you are comfortable and happy with who you are, and someone else comes along and tells you that you shouldn't be, then disregard those negative people. You know why? Because they have absolutely nothing to add that's going to be a positive thing for you. Okay? So it is what you feel about yourself and how you feel about yourself that is going to make your life worth living. All right? Don't live for what someone else wants to think about you. So I'm actually very appreciative of Glenn's comment, because it made me realize that, you know what, you can say whatever you want, but I'm still who I am, and I'm pretty happy with who I am. I'm actually very satisfied with who I am and where I am in life. And you can't ruin that with just some, ignorant words that you can type on a computer, all right, as you sit on your couch. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you enjoyed this. Like I said, I know that the process for making this was a little bit long, but let me tell you what, I truly do think it's worth it. All right, this came out outstanding. I can't see this lasting very long. All right, in the AP household. And definitely, if you do make this, make sure that you do refrigerate it, okay? Usually I'll let my bread sit out on the counter, for a few days. And if it's more than 2 or 3 days after I've made it, I'll put it in the fridge. But this one will go in the fridge as soon as it comes down to 100% room temperature, because it's still a little bit warm. All right? So ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you very much for joining in. Thank you to all of you that have sent me a coffee this week. I stopped shouting out the names, but if you did, you know who you are, and thank you very much. I truly do appreciate it, okay? I am definitely going to go ahead and use some of those funds to give back to the community, and that'll be in an upcoming video, all right? Probably in the next week or two. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so having said that, I hope you have a great weekend today. I'm actually having a new septic installed later on today. So maybe I'll do a real short video on that, show you guys what that entails if you've never seen a septic being installed. Okay, so having said that, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to every one of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I'm out.